things that I am today joined by an all star panel of individuals from our region, people who have worked day and night. They have worked really hard in reviewing the movies for us, across the genres, including the superhero genre. So please allow me to introduce to you, first and foremost, movie convos Mohamed Fareed. Mohammed has been a very active movie reviewer for many years now, and he has been involved not just with the superheroes project, but also from genres ranging from horror, sci-fi, drama, you just name it. And mashallah, he is not only the owner of a very successful YouTube channel, but also he is now getting involved in big projects that are related to the world of cinema. So please wish him all the best in his future endeavors, and please join me in welcoming him to the panel. Next up, we have the face of Itzy Reviews. Itzy Reviews from Dubai, Ahil Fagi. He was kind enough to join us. And for those of you who are on Instagram, you know who Itzy Reviews is. And last but certainly not the least, for my community, which is more into the superheroes and the sci-fi and all this kind of stuff, we have our very own, my genre sister, I would call her, Raz Reviews, also from Dubai. So please join me in welcoming all of them to Superheroes of Arabia Live.
Thank you, Mars, for having me here. I think for the second time, it's a pleasure. Thank you, my friend, for your continuous support and as well your passion for superhero movies that keeps on growing year after year. And hopefully tonight we'll have a very interesting discussion. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
the pleasure is ours. Thank you for taking out the time, to all of you. I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
technically, we are having the biggest superhero movies this year. James Gunn is starting with the DC universe, and we're also having the Fantastic Four, which is a huge step in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hopefully, we get Downey's Doom this year.
Downey's Doom. Well, that's a good wish. I hope we get some kind of a cameo or something coming in. Raz,
Definitely, because Thanos was introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy. There needs to be like a brick to for the next step.
good point. Very valid. And obviously, we might be headed towards a huge surprise. Who knows? Raz,
Hey, hey guys. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I think this is actually a very cool combination of people, and to be honest with you, I feel like this should be the first of many such content because there's a lot of us around here
Sham.
that love and are passionate about movies, and yeah, it would be really cool to actually do something like this regularly because I think it there's definitely so many discussions that can be had, especially in 2025. A lot has changed in the last 5 years and a lot will change in the next year. So we are on the precipice of what's gonna come, and superhero movies and Marvel and DC. It's gonna be crazy. And of course, let's not forget that this is the year for me, which is the year of Born Again. This is very important.
Oh,
Finally,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's what's coming, and I can't wait to discuss this with you guys because there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and I tend to really go and look deep what happens behind the scenes and how things go down, and it'd be really cool to discuss and see how that affects the content we're gonna get.
importantly, with what we have seen, and as Raz has pointed out, that this a lot has changed since Corona happened, and a lot of productions that came in. How do you think the superhero genre is influencing the overall cinema landscape in terms of storytelling, audience expectations, and even other genres? I'll start with you, Fareed.
So basically, look, superhero movies not only changed cinema, it's actually from a commercial standpoint. Now, this is what sells at the time being. However, I feel like, and I'm going to be very honest. I feel like after 2019, there hasn't been a lot of superhero movies as it were, like from 2000, let's say 8 till 2019. There's been a lot of changes, and there's a lot of, let's say, people are kind of like fed up from superhero movies because a lot of things came out that were not that great, and commercially they were doing kind of okay. People say that Marvel peaked. I had to mention Marvel and DC. Sorry, guys. So people say that Marvel peaked, with Endgame and Infinity War, and kind of revived itself with No Way Home, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and then it just kind of like it wasn't very stable. And DC, with the complexities of the Snyderverse, they still didn't manage to have a very successful project aside from the Batman and Joker. Having said that, um, I feel like this new wave of movies coming in, even though I was a skeptic at the beginning, I feel like it will revive the love and passion for superhero movies, because now I feel like they learned from their past mistakes, and people want to see the oldest, like the stuff that they loved 6 7 years ago. And I cannot believe, it's been 6 years since MCU changed. Now, superheroes movies are a safe bet, but at the same time, it affects cinemas from a little bit of different perspective, where you don't see a lot of big movies being produced in Hollywood because they're worried that they will not succeed. And just to give you a little bit of an example,
Right.
so I come from like the era, like where when I growing up, I went to Jurassic Park 2. I remember Men in Black 1 when it was released. I remember when The Matrix and The Mummy had a huge box office fight in the summer, where you would see movies like Troy, Kingdom of Heaven, Gladiator, like this kind of big blockbuster movies that they would make in order to make money. These
Right.
things kind of a little bit, superhero movies affected the making of those kind of films. Don't get me wrong, they still do make some of them, but they don't take as big risks as before. And that was a general complaint from a lot of filmmakers. And as well, I complain about it on my channel, because I need certain diversity. I don't want to be just, I don't want to think of summer and only think of big blockbuster superhero movies. So these things kind of a bit of changing, but that's the impact of superhero movies. I feel like if the production companies, they don't think thoroughly with their content and their stories, the fate of superhero movies might get the same fate as the cowboy movies in the history of cinema. Which part of me doesn't want this to happen. I want this continuity. But now you see a lot of content being pushed, but the quality of it is not that great. But I reiterate, like, I feel like the upcoming projects, like, series and movies, like, gave me hope again, that like we'll hopefully have a great, let's say, a year for those kind of movies. Sorry, I talked a lot. I
No, no,
apologize.
it's okay. It's okay. Because the more we learn, the better. Ahil, what do you have to say on the same question which I asked Muhammad?
I mean, I kind of do agree on what Mohammed said, but I feel like the whole genre of superheroes is never going to die down because, I mean, yeah, we're going to have superhero fatigue and, we're going to get bored of it eventually. There's always going to be like a huge big event which is going to bring everyone to the theaters and, it's going to make everyone fall in love with Marvel and DC again. And, it's going to it's like a cycle, it just spins off. And yeah, that's basically it. I don't feel like it's going to die. So, yeah.
Okay. Raz, what would you say on this question? That, I mean, uh, is it the superhero genre? Is it influencing the overall cinema landscape?
I think, look, there's the influence comes in many ways, and yeah, definitely every time there's a financially successful genre of film, it starts to take over the content creation and things like that. There's one thing that I usually disagree with, and I don't agree with the term. I don't like the term superhero fatigue because I don't believe it's real. I think people have a mediocre movie fatigue, whether it's superhero or not. And we see this happen in every genre and throughout the cinema history, where you'd have, like, when, just like Fareed was saying, we had the big, like the big sword and sandal blockbusters, right? Troy and Gladiator really like brought this became this big spectacle, and then after Gladiator there was Troy, and then after that, but then they started continuously pumping out those sword and sandal movies, and then the fatigue wasn't with that type of film. The fatigue was with the fact that the movies that were coming out after that were just knockoffs, and they were quantity over quality, and then people just got tired of not the type of film, but a type of film like that that's mediocre or even sometimes not so good. And the same thing happened with superhero films. So Marvel and the MCU and things like that exploded so much, critically and financially, and then you got people who came in and started pumping out and trying to rush and trying to, even on the DC side of things, where they were trying to play catch up without building the universe properly, and then you had all these issues with their releases as well, and that caused, towards the end, caused, especially in 2020 and 2021, you got this fatigue. And a big element of it is something we shouldn't also neglect, which is the streaming sites, right? The streaming
Yes.
content, which became so much and so overwhelming. And this is due to when, especially in Disney, when the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, left and Bob Chapek took over, and he kind of just went all
Hmm.
in with Disney Plus and started, pump out as much content as humanly possible. And you started getting
Yeah.
your She-Hulks and your Secret Invasions. It's that really, became oversaturating the market with something that wasn't really good, and it really started to fall apart from there. But throughout these, whenever there is a good superhero movie, that most, again, what's good is subjective, but most people agree on certain things, like Spider-Man, No Way Home, like of course the first Joker, like now Deadpool and Wolverine, literally right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so when these films come out, somehow the fatigue goes away, because the fatigue is not with superheroes, the fatigue is with bad films. And but you can always bring it back. And just like all the films, like Western genre, yeah, died out because everybody was making Westerns, and then there was oversaturation with mediocre content. But you still, every couple of years, you'll find a really high quality Western film that ends up at the Oscars. And you end up with Western style shows like Breaking Bad, one of the most popular TV shows now of all time, is a Western, generally. So, and the same thing, like at some point we had like black and white silent film, The Artist, win an Oscar. So it doesn't matter. I don't think genre is important. A good film is a good film, no matter what genre it is. So if you make it a good film, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the genre is.
And I
Interesting.
feel, yeah.
Sorry, please
So,
continue.
no, it's like just what Raz said. Like, I feel like what you're trying to say is like, just like we want to miss those movies. Like, just to explain more. Like, remember like the era like when after Iron Man, and of
Mhm.
course around that time there was like Spider-Man. I think 3 was released, and then there's a Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. But like I remember like every year back in the day, like 2011, 2010, like you would find like 2 superhero movies a year. And I remember
Mhm.
like I used to get so excited, just like I'm gonna watch this film, even if it's good or bad. And I agree with you about if it's good or bad, definitely 100%, because Deadpool Wolverine was a really fantastic film, and it
Mhm.
actually made me I even wrote in my thumbnail like this movie, the savior of Marvel, because really I kind of missed.
Marvel Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I loved it. So I feel like it's great to have content. I really like, it's not a bad thing like where we're gonna watch our favorite characters, let's say on Disney Plus or HBO Max or whatever. But at the same time, I just feel like it's so much out there that I feel like I kind of want to miss it, but I don't want to miss it. Am I making sense to you guys? Like it just
Yes.
feels
Yeah,
like
Yes.
yeah, I feel it.
it's
Yeah.
I mean,
everywhere.
I had to watch Secret Invasion just for the sake of it, so that I don't miss out anything
Oh
that's
no,
happening
no,
currently
no.
in Marvel.
That wasn't.
Is
That
it
was
good?
just. No, no, it was terrible. Even if that was the only thing we got in 2023 when it came out, even if that was the only thing we got, it wouldn't have been good. We wouldn't have liked it anyway. And here's the thing, look, it's a double-edged sword, right? And I'm gonna talk a little shop, right? Talk a little bit behind
Okay.
the scenes. And that's the problem with oversaturation of content. Forget the effect it has on the audience. It's a double-edged sword, because when you start doing too much content as a company, remember, you have artists that are working on these things, you have producers, you have directors, you have screenwriters, you have, and of course, special effect artists and post-production people. And you know you can only have so much. And when Marvel went, and Disney specifically, not just Marvel, Disney went nuts, all right, when Bob Chapek came in and just started oversaturating. He's like, we're going to pump out, like his mandate was pump out as much content as possible and just flood Disney Plus with content. And the over flooding of content, funny guys, wasn't in the cinema. It was mostly streaming. Cinema was also happening at the same time, which is why it all felt like too much. But at the same time, you have a bunch of resources like your writers and your directors and your screenwriters and your creative producers coming up with ideas. These people are getting stretched thin. Like when the MCU was at its highest, you had Kevin Feige as a head creative producer, and he is greenlighting everything and reading all the scripts and watching the dailies of the films and watching the movies and then proving and being able to micromanage that stuff. But when there was like 16 projects happening at the same time, there's no way one human being like Kevin Feige will be able to handle it. So then they started to outsource. They started to give these films outside to other people and other filmmakers. And also they started overworking their post-production people and they started overworking the writers. So you're stretching people thin. So logically the quality of your output is going to drop because you're stretching thin your resources. And that's the thing, by the way, when that ended, because I don't know if you guys know about the whole like Succession like drama that happened in Disney when Bob Chapek was voted out by the board and Bob Iger came back from their time and took over.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a whole thing. If you read up on it, you can find like a bunch of stuff about it on like in Variety, on Deadline. Like you can read the stuff. And yeah, so Bob Chapek came in. He took power away from the creatives. He put his bank of friends in charge, and they launched Disney Plus. And then he oversaturated the market, and it wasn't good. And that's when the decline. And they started losing money. They started losing subscription. Disney didn't make profit. Disney Plus didn't make profit in its first year. It was a disaster. So the board of trustees voted him out, and they brought back. And there was like this whole again like Succession. I was watching it as it was happened, so it was very exciting. And but it was boring and very business and behind the scenes. But as a producer, I love this stuff. But yeah, but then Bob Iger came back, and one of the things is that he put Kevin Feige back in charge, where Bob Chapek removed creative power from him. The first thing that Kevin Feige did, the first thing at the time, this was last year. At the time, the Daredevil was being filmed. The Netflix Daredevil was being filmed at the time, and the first thing that Kevin Feige said was, "Show me the dailies." He wasn't able to watch dailies in this phase. Dailies, by the way, is like the raw footage, just
Yes,
the
yeah,
things they're
yeah.
filming, right?
Okay.
So back in the day, Iron Man, Thor, like back in like high MCU quality, Kevin Feige was watching everything and greenlighting everything. And then now he wasn't. He didn't watch most of it, right? And most of the shows, by the way, were not made properly anymore. Because I don't know if you know about how TV shows are made, but the person who's deciding things on a TV show is called a showrunner,
Yeah.
who's the head writer, and they're head of a writer's room. And so all
Right.
Disney projects we were seeing had no showrunner, by the way. They had
What?
just no showrunners.
Oh
She-Hulk
my
didn't have
god.
a showrunner. Secret Invasion didn't have a showrunner. Echo didn't have no showrunners. It's just
I think Agatha did have one though.
yes. Agatha is the first film. It's the first project where Kevin Feige insisted that we bring back showrunners and we make it like a series,
Mm.
like normal people. Anyway, so then he was like, okay, I want to look. Born Again was being filmed, so he's like, bring me the dailies. So he sat there and watched the dailies, and it was, and he was like, he stopped production, and they were already like 60% done. He stopped production. He's like, I'm gonna postpone this to 2 years from now or a year and a half from now. We're gonna sit down. He brought in a showrunner, brought in writers, brought in the old cast, which none of them were there. Froggy wasn't there, Karen wasn't there. Like he brought the old cast,
Mm.
and it wasn't connected to the original Netflix Daredevil. It was like a new, same characters but a different Daredevil, which was
The,
weird.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't even connected. So he brought everybody, he paused everything, and he went back to from scratch. So that's what happens when you have a creative who's able to be in charge. But when he's making, or he's just signing papers to release 16 projects in the year, he can't do that. He can't micromanage and quality control. So now we have quality control. So I'm very excited, and it's a big deal.
Okay,
okay.
Raz.
I did not know about this. That's very fascinating. All right, cool. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start up with a follow up question because a lot has been shared by all of you. Recently, we have come across some action movies that have been promoted. One of them happens to be a feature of Jason Statham, if I'm not mistaken. I have this feeling inside of me, but I don't want to lay it out. I want to basically hear what you guys have to say. That whenever we are coming across traditional action or sci fi films these days, are they borrowing heavily from the superhero formulas?
Hmm.
I'll start with Razan. So I came across this trailer for A Working Man, and as I'm watching the trailer, it's
Mm.
basically giving me the feeling that a lot of it is. either inspired, or it's taking like that, it seems like I'm watching a superhero movie without the movie claiming to be a superhero movie.
But aren't like all action heroes are superheroes in their own world and their own universe?
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, yeah, if you look
yeah,
at Die Hard, that
yeah,
guy was a superhero, man.
exactly,
Nah,
exactly.
nah, nah, nah.
Yeah, and
What about
Statham
Fast
movies
and
have
Furious? Fast and Furious and X-Men have the same powers. They defy
Yeah.
physics. And they have X in it, like what about Triple X? That's
No,
like X-Men times three.
it's basically like, okay, let me just try to say that, like a character that's not born out of a publication, that
Hmm.
has a legacy for 8 decades, if not 5 decades, for example. And at the same time, when we are talking about action heroes, I mean, I don't know, this is how I feel, but I can never imagine calling Rambo, the Terminator, Commando, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee.
Hmm.
I can never imagine calling these guys superheroes. I will always call them action heroes, or in case of Bruce Lee, the martial arts superstar, action hero, or whatever is the case. So, having seen A Working Man, I felt that, it's claiming to be an action movie, but it seems like, uh,
I mean, it's hard to judge because we haven't seen it. It hasn't come out yet, but
Yeah.
it's direct. I'm looking it up, and it's directed by David Ayer, who did Suicide Squad. So that is kind of his style. I don't
And he
think
did the Beekeeper, I think, as well,
signals
the
it.
one
yeah, he
before.
did the
Yeah, and the
Beekeeper as
Beekeeper
well.
is him as well. So it's kind of more just one director's style than I think it's a movement. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a movement there at all. I think
Yeah.
superhero movies are superhero movies. I think there was a movement, a nice movement that happened in the 2017s and 16s and 15s and stuff like that during the superhero phase, where there were these cynical superhero content like Kick Ass, like
Yeah.
The Boys, like Invincible. Like these are content that are like things that are, there are superhero movies, but they're kind of making fun of it. They're self-aware, self-referential. So there is that movement, but I don't think there's a movement in action to be like superheroes. But however, action films have always had this sort of legacy hero character that we see repeated, and
Yes.
we saw that with John McClane, and then recently John Wick, and Reddick. Like all of these characters, they have
Yes.
this like superhero thing, but they're not superheroes. They're just action heroes, but
Yeah.
they feel like mythology sometimes.
Completely. And like they honestly, like in terms of like from a character standpoint, they do have the same character arc, give or take. So but the one, like the difference, I feel like it's like one of them wears a cape, the other no, the other just has like
This wears
a
plot armor.
yes. But I mean, I don't feel like Muaz and like action movies are trying to be or take from superhero or mimic superheroes. Honestly, I think it's just a different take on action movies. And of course, like if we're gonna speak about the genre of action movies, there's like the style of Die Hard movies. Like I love Die Hard movies, by the way. I know, like
oh
after
yes.
Die, I mean, like they're fun and everything, and they're like out of this world, but I enjoy them.
Yes.
And as well, like when the Matrix was released in '99, that kind of changed the perception of action. That had a huge influence on certain action movies in terms of slow motion and the bullets moving and all of
Yeah.
that. So I feel like um, nobody tries to copy anything. It's just I feel like it's a wonderful influence. It's a if we find a movie like a starring Jason Statham who can actually jump so high, higher than the Hulk, and this kind of makes sense in the story, I'll buy that stuff and I'll just watch it. Like I'll just enjoy it. I don't feel like they're trying to copy. And like what Ras said, David Ayer, like he's directed Suicide Squad, and he did as well Bright on Netflix, which has
Yes.
kind of a
Yeah, yeah,
fantasy,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, which has kind
yeah.
of a fantasy kind of an element, and as well like a superhero feel to it. So I think they're just borrowing from each other, and it works for me, honestly. Like it's totally fine. I
Ahil,
mean,
I
would
I
you
don't
like
see
kind
to?
of
it.
I kind of like what James Gunn is planning. He's diversifying in all these projects. So we have Clayface coming, which is a horror movie. We have The Lantern Show coming, which is mystery thriller. So he's redefining the superhero genre in such a way that it is so diversified, and then everyone, it was like everyone has something for themselves to see. and at the same time, it's all under the superhero umbrella.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's very smart to because DC has so much potential, and unfortunately, I know there's a lot of fans of the Snyderverse, but the,
And you're not,
and
and you're not
I'm
one
gonna
of
tread
them.
lightly. I'm gonna tread lightly, but you know, whatever you thought of it, it did kind of put this. It did make it did make the universe feel smaller, as if it's all one type of mood and atmosphere, which is this dark, gritty, moody kind of, you know, Zack Snyder vibe. And it kind of took away from, I think, when you go to the comics and you go to the, you know, the animated films and, you know, the Justice League and the, you know, all this stuff, there's so much, there is versatility in DC just as much as there is in Marvel, but it hasn't been utilized on film, I think. And I think James Gunn is one of the best people to come in and sort of bring that and bring some, you know, and I don't think it all needs to be connected. I hope they start doing some Elseworld stuff. Like you have, you know, you have your you know, your Battinson universe, the Batman, the
Yes.
Matt Reeves stuff, which I much fan of, and you know, and even the Joker, like these are separate things, and it doesn't mean, and now there's Creature Commandos, completely different vibe, and that's fine, I think. And then Superman is going to have its own vibe, and I think these little different, you know, it doesn't all have to be just one color and one note. I think the versatility is the thing that's going to keep us away from the superhero fatigue if all the films feel the same. And I think the MCU kind of fell into that because the MCU became a genre, it became a style, and then it became kind of one note. So once we start diverting away from that as well, I think, you know, the genre can continue and we won't be
So,
tired of it.
so like you're saying, you don't want to see like a Justice League movie in a shared universe, or you just wanted to take time for this to happen. Like you, like because a lot of people demanding to see
Mm.
like the new universe. I feel like, you know what? Maybe that's my own perception. Like even now with the new James Gunn trailer of Superman and everything, and the new
Mm.
universe that's starting, I've started to think subconsciously, honestly, like, okay, so when are we gonna have a Justice League movie? Like, you know, like it's
Yeah.
just because the Marvel formula was so successful back then. You know, like when we saw those individual movies, and then when we watched first Avengers, second Avenger, and the third and the fourth. Like in my head, like I want them to team up. So you're saying like we shouldn't focus on that now and just focus on, you know, making good movies for every character, and then maybe do like a
I mean,
multiverse thing.
I think
I
my answer
watched.
is two are right. Number one is that yes, a shared universe is nice and it's cool, and it would be really cool if we get introduced. You know, we're gonna meet a lot of heroes, by the way, in the Superman movies, not just
Yeah.
Superman, Supergirl, like all of it. Great. And if we have a few characters in that world established, and then you put them together in a Justice League film or series, and we it's that world, great. And you should establish a world, but I think it's not the only world you should do, because then you're limiting yourself to anything you're gonna bring, you're gonna have to color with this brush. So whilst we have that, we can also have Elseworlds, and then James Gunn can give creative control to other directors and other filmmakers to, you know, interpret different aspects of the DC comic book universe into different things, just like Matt Reeves did with the Batman, where he did something completely separate, and it was, to me, very successful, and it felt very different. So it's both. Like we can have our cake and eat it, is what I'm saying.
Ahil, you were
Yeah.
saying something?
Yeah, I was saying that yeah, I kind of agree on what they said because it's very different. You know, it's very important for the James Gunn to have like different projects, and it's something for everyone to get a hold on. So yeah.
Okay, I have a very important question to ask you guys because both Muhammad and Raz touched on this topic about the fatigue, if you will.
Mm.
Now we are in 2025. Captain America Brave New World is going to be released in February. Spider Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man animated series by the end of this month. Daredevil live action series is
Mhm.
coming in March, followed by the Fantastic Four and Superman, and then the Thunderbolts. Uh, I to my collective memory, I never came across such a stacked year when it came to superhero productions. Why are we seeing such a stacked year when it comes to 2025 and also 2026 for superheroes movies? Ahil, can you lead this discussion from here?
Yeah, I feel like we're living in the golden age of superhero cinema, because we're getting Secret Wars, we're getting Avengers Doomsday. I feel like everyone has realized this to the point, even the good news of the Sonyverse ending, because that was the whole crap with Madam Web and Craven the Hunter we got. So I feel like studios have now decided that it's time to make good stuff. And even with the failure of movies, that's very important, because Madam Web failed at the box office, Craven the Hunter failed at the box office. So everyone's just like, okay, now what can we do next? So they're just thinking about it now. Okay, let's go forward with some good stuff. So yeah,
Okay, Muhammad, what would you like to share on
Um,
this from a
Honestly,
studio standpoint?
yeah, I mean, like maybe I just because with what Raz said as well earlier, maybe it's just a coincidence that all those projects got ready at a certain time and they're like slated to be released this year. Because I know that they have like a schedule, I know, and they go like supposedly they think very hard when to release certain things and timings and links to commercial aspects, because the main driving force for superhero movies is of course to make money. But I don't know why this year is so stacked in comparison to the previous years. I think it's just maybe timing. I might be wrong, but for me personally, and I'm not gonna sound biased, but like I'm very. This is like the only film for me this year is Superman, because it's my favorite character, and I hope that we can talk about the trailer later on, because I saved my opinion about it on I stayed quiet on social media until now. So yeah.
Nice.
Okay, Raz.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this guy, to Daredevil. So here
oh
we
yeah,
are. Yeah, I can't wait. Look, I actually don't think that next year is as stacked as we think. I think in terms of numbers, in terms of numbers, we're talking about what's coming out next year. We're talking about Superman, and we're talking about Daredevil, obviously. Um, what else do we have upcoming? Fantastic
we
Four
have Fantastic Four.
Thunderbolts.
and Thunderbolts. Yeah, that's like four. I would like I think there's been years that have been a lot more stacked than this. Like I remember the Infinity War year was crazy. There were like eight, if not nine, superhero movies that year. You had Joker, you had Infinity, you had Captain Marvel before Infinity War or after. I don't remember.
Before,
Uh,
after,
yeah,
after, after,
No, after
yeah.
after yeah.
before
Spider-Man
Endgame.
Far Yeah, and that year also had Spider-Man Far From Home, and DC had Shazam as well in the same year. You had the Brightburn as well. Like there's also other
Yeah, it
studios other than Marvel and DC were making superhero content,
was
and
a
you still
great
had
year, by
Fox
the
back
way.
then. Yeah, and there was Fox back then, and they did the last the last
The
Fox
Dark
X-Men,
Phoenix, yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Phoenix, exact. So that was a much more stacked year than now, actually. So I think it's just that the movies that are coming now are huge. I don't think this is quantity over quality, because I mean quality over quantity, the opposite. Because I think that you have like Superman is an event, an event. Like when
Yes, yes.
when Man of Steel came out, like half of the podcasters and the film content people that are out now, most of them started doing it because of Man of Steel and the discussions around Man of Steel on YouTube, right? So it's Superman. It's one of our. It's a human. It's our cultural iconography. It's a big deal. Elvis, Superman. So it's a big deal. Fantastic Four, because they've been off the radar for such a long time, and even
About
when they did
nine
come
years.
into
Yeah.
and even when they did, no one was happy. So now there's this promise of a real, Fantastic Four, because even the Fantastic Four comics were not doing very well. So this is like this whole thing is like, are they going to come back from the dead as the Marvels, Marvel's big family? And of course, you have big, huge fans of the Daredevil and the Punisher, and he's coming back. Like, do you know what I mean? So I feel like it's more the weight of these films is what's the big deal about this year, rather than just the amount of, it's stacked, but I think it's stacked emotionally more than technically. If that makes sense.
Ahil, do you feel the same way? It's stacked emotionally instead of, like just one production after another.
I feel like 2019 was a pretty stacked year. I do agree with what Raz said, but we could have had more projects this year. I mean, we only have like three or four. I do not agree that it is as stacked as the couple of future years. You know what I'm looking at.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
there's more coming. Yeah.
Okay. About
there's more.
Daredevil, like I'm like kind of because I loved the Netflix one, and especially season three for me, and I really
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, and it really touched my heart. Especially season
Yeah.
three. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like I'm not worried, to be honest. I would say just I am cautiously optimistic. You know what I mean? Like
Cautiously
I don't
optimistic.
want cautiously optimistic. Is that a thing? I'm
Yes,
just
Yes.
that's
Yes, it
that's
is.
a thing.
I'm just
Yes.
trying to say, like, you know what? I'm excited, but I'm gonna like I don't want it to be too happy and too like a lot of jokes and stuff, because
Oh
really like
yes.
the
Oh yes.
Netflix
It's
one,
no, 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 no.
what
I'm so
what
so excited for you, Penny, to
So,
see
so
what's coming.
She-Hulk,
This is
She-Hulk
what
kind
you
of
were.
butchered it.
No, no, forget She-Hulk, guys. She-Hulk doesn't matter. She-Hulk is to the dumpster fire of history. It doesn't matter. Look, guys, I'm telling you, I will be. I hope, like, if I'm wrong, it will. This video will be very funny of me going, yeah, but no. I wasn't cautiously optimistic. I was pessimistic actually when they first announced it. When they first released information about I was like, oh my god, now they're gonna ruin Daredevil. Especially when I saw Daredevil on She-Hulk, it didn't help. However, I'm telling you, this is one of those moments where the chef is back in the kitchen. Like, he's back. He paused the production for 2 years, not to bring it back at a mediocre level. Like, he didn't have. Do you know how much money they lost? They reshot 60% of it. They threw out footage, and I don't know if like in the film industry, this is a disaster. This is
yeah.
like this is millions of dollars down the drain that they're like he scrapped footage, and they went out and rewrote it first. That's why they stopped it. They didn't go reshoot immediately. It's not reshoots. They rewrote. They brought the writers. They did a writers room. They rewrote it, and that, to by the way, to be in continuity with after season 3, which is also one of my favorite seasons.
Mm.
So there's a lot that went into making this, and clearly a lot of care, which is what's making me look forward to it. If none of this had happened and it was just okay, we're bringing back Daredevil, I'd feel the same way as you. But knowing that the head chef was back in the kitchen, and he's micromanaging it, and he's took a big risk and a financial hit just to get it right, it would be insane if it goes wrong. Like, it
Okay.
wouldn't
Okay,
make sense.
Raz, I need to hold each and every one of you because we're now down to our last 15 minutes of the live broadcast, and I have
Also,
a.
also, it's R-rated. Just saying.
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah, it's NC-17.
I
It's
did not
NC-17,
know
so there's
that.
gonna be it's bloody. It's NC-17.
All
Yeah,
right.
which is the R-rated
Wow.
version of TV. I'm done, son of Jeddah. Don't make me talk about movies. I talk too long.
No, I really wanted to, didn't want to interject right now, but the thing is, for this discussion, I have saved the best question for last.
Okay.
Cool.
And it's going to be quite emotional for many who consider themselves fans, diehard fans of an iconic superhero. So, are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
Bring it on.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Now,
Born again, ready.
good one, good one. Okay. So, James Gunn's Superman is expected to set the tone for DC's new cinematic universe.
Hmm.
How crucial is this movie for DC's future? Number one.
Hmm.
And can it compete? Can it compete with Marvel's momentum?
All right. All right. So, look, I'll be very honest. When I first watched the trailer, I wasn't that excited.
Okay.
I still had like the Snyder verse and everything in me, but I had to let it go, to be honest, at a certain time. And then when I because look, you need to know one thing about me, guys, and please don't judge me. When I watch the trailer, I get affected a lot by the music, the soundtrack.
Mm.
So when I drive to work,
Yeah.
I most of the time I listen to trailers. Like one of my favorite trailers of all time is
Is
listening to the trailer of Infinity War
oh
while driving. I
oh
swear, like I just that what they say and with the music. So this one got me very well. This trailer, I was like I was too harsh on this film. I understand what James Gunn's trying to do. I understand the emotions behind it. I understand from what I've seen just from the trailer. Even though I have reservations about the suit, about how he looks, but I'm like, hey, I
Mm.
had the same reservations when Snyder released Man of Steel, and
okay.
then
Mm.
and then I liked it. So I'm like, why am I being a hypocrite and like I wanted people to accept Snyder's version, but why can't I accept like the because I feel like he's going to, with the more traditional Superman, James Gunn.
Yes.
So why can't
Yes.
I just accept that? You know what I mean? Like I just checked myself, and to
Okay.
be honest, for moments from the trailer, it kind of felt a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of characters in it, but I'm hoping that they'll be presented in a very smart way without the movie feeling to be like like congested or like it has a lot of characters. I got emotional. listening to it. When I saw Crypto, I
Yeah.
smiled because I
Yeah.
yeah, because the Superman series, I watched the whole thing. I have the entire series of the cartoon, and I have all the animated movies, and I have
Amazing.
and we have the comic books from my dad, but we lost some of them when back in the day Superman was called Nabil Fauzi,
Yeah.
in Arabic. So I know this stuff, and I got emotional, and I'm like, hey, Muhammad, Snyder did something that you liked and you basically fought for. Khalas, this is all in the past. Look at the future. Be hopeful. Be
Yeah.
hopeful,
Move on.
which
Yes.
I am. And I am excited. And I say it out publicly. I am excited. I just hope that the movie would just, and as well, it has the essence of, the Christopher Reeve movies, which honestly, Superman 1 and 2, especially the director's cut, it's one of my favorite movies. Like, as a child, like, as one of my favorite superhero movies. I love them. So I am optimistic. I am excited. I have my reservations, yes, but I'll say them out loud once I review the movie. So I am excited and kind of emotional. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the panelists got emotional.
Oh,
I'm really delighted he shared it with us. Ahil,
I feel this is DC's one shot and one opportunity to get it right. Because if this goes wrong, we might never have a Superman movie in like 10 or 20 years. And
yeah.
in James
Yeah.
Gunn we trust though, like what he has done with the Suicide Squad, and it's really good to see that he is like a true comic book fan with how he's open in social media and stuff. He really promotes the comic book genre and stuff. So, and I really love how he's diversifying the characters in the Superman movie. It's not just Superman, and we have Lex Luthor, and the casting is brilliant as well. We have Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor, we have everyone that just defines. We have Jimmy Olsen as well, and then we have Crypto, obviously, and there's other side characters like Metamorpho, and I really love what he's doing, and I really can't wait to see what he's cooking in the kitchen.
Ahil, before I go to Raz, don't you think it's like a bit harsh on your side that you say that if this movie turns out to be a miss, we might not see like another Superman movie for like 10, 20 years?
I
I
mean,
think he's
look what
right.
happened. Look what happened with Man of Steel. To be honest, we didn't even get like a sequel. Fans were
Mm.
we never got it.
Yeah, there's a sequel. It's called BVS, dude. There's a sequel.
Ah! I, I wouldn't
You
boast
got me.
about that one. Yeah. Fareed.
I will always defend that movie, like the Ultimate Edition. But I understand why people don't like it. But like I get what you're saying, honestly. But I just have this kind of a really positive feeling that it will click. It will like basically hit all the checkpoints
Yeah,
for
in James Gunn we trust though. Like James Gunn, I mean I do believe in him. I feel he can get it right. Fingers crossed though, obviously.
no. But like for him as
I
a filmmaker, I don't like his work mostly, like his for me personally. But I feel like he's gonna get the character right, to be
you
fair.
don't like Guardians of the Galaxy.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I like
Okay.
I like them.
Yeah,
Two, I
you
didn't
better
like
you
two. I don't
Have you
like
seen
two.
have you seen Slither
I've seen Slither.
for him?
I liked, yeah,
So
I liked it. It's just his style of how he treats his character. But this is like too cinema for me. Like for this video, it's just there are certain things that how he treats his character. I just don't like.
you mean the self-deprivation
It's
humor
just, yeah, and even like the
with it.
same formula he used with Suicide Squad. For me
Yeah,
personally,
it's his
I get it, the
style.
enjoyable part. I get it. It's just it kind of feels like I've seen this before wearing a different cloak, and I'm like,
Mm,
no. But I feel like
mm,
with Superman, this one, I because there's so much rich information, rich history, and everything. I don't think he'll do the same treatment because for Guardians one for me is like one of the greatest superhero movies of
it's
all time.
fantastic. I also
Um,
love 3. I thought 3 was brilliant.
yeah, three, like I loved the rocket part, like his
Mm,
story, but it's still like
mm,
for me it's just the comedy aspect where like it wasn't balanced for me. But anyway, that's just
mm,
nitpicking from my side.
mm,
But I feel
mm.
like for Superman will be fine. Why did they kill off Superman and Batman versus Captain Sinbad? I made a video about this. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
agree. Actually, I agree with the fact that what I was saying is that a lot is riding on this. I agree. I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want to be James Gunn right now, because the pressure on this, there really is. You're talking about, again, whether however you felt about however you felt about the DCEU, however you felt about the James, even the James Gunn stuff, all of this, that world died. Your Black Adam and the Shazam and the all of these all of that content, just none of it ever managed to be successful, especially in numbers. Like, if you look at if you do just numbers, forget critical acclaim things, or just numbers, it never really reached its potential. As content coming from the comics, you never felt like it got towards its potential, and that's why there's a big, like, it just collapsed at the end. Like, what was it, the Blue Beetle? Like that,
Yeah.
it flopped. Like,
Yeah.
it went out with a whimper, even. So now you have this new, it's a completely, it's like a new beginning. All right, and it needs to start on the right, because even Man of Steel, look, I liked Man of Steel a lot. I didn't think it was perfect, but I liked Man of Steel. I just like how you feel about James Gunn. I've always had that feeling about Zack Snyder as a filmmaker, where I think he's a visual master, but I have an issue with his storytelling since Watchmen, since 300. Like, it's fun, but, like, I'm not a fan of him as a storyteller, as a scriptwriter. I have issues, but that's, again, a personal opinion. But even Man of Steel, was, when it came out, like I said earlier, it spurred all these YouTubers discussing whether Man of Steel is good or not. There wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
consensus.
I
You know,
remember. I remember.
yeah, we look at it fondly now because of what happened. Hindsight, it was great.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I mean. It never really hit its stride from the beginning. It stumbled onto the scene as a universe. If this, and people are not, and at the time there was a lot more faith. It was just like, we had a lot more hope in it, and we were most. And keep in mind, we are not regular audience. We're big fans. We're movie buffs. We're comic book fans. We're not the average, like my cousin and my aunt. You know what I mean? We're not the average movie goer where all the money is. And for them, they have dismissed DC. So this has to come in and bring back and reignite the passion of the fans that have given up, and also somehow please your regular moviegoer, the
Um,
non-geek, right? Who, where all the money is, we're still a minority, right? We're like a loud minority. We're still a minority in terms of money and box office, right? So you still have to catch those people as well. You have to catch the people who like the Snyder films. You have to catch the people who hated the Snyder films because they loved the Christopher Reeve film and thought that was a betrayal of, the love of,
yeah.
the happy Superman. Well, nobody agreed, and you have to make this, and you have to please all of them, because any one of those factions doesn't like it, they're gonna be loud. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, right,
And
from what you're saying, is like, it feels like Superman will be the most divisive commercial movie of 2025. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing, like, because I feel like if there's a lot of controversy behind the film, commercially will make people go watch it. Like, remember what
yeah,
happened to Barbie? Like, who would
yeah,
thought
yeah,
that
yeah,
Barbie would
yeah,
make a billion, and actually compete with Oppenheimer. But I
yeah.
totally agree with you, because it has a lot of elements, like, where, like,
A lot
it's
is riding on it.
yeah,
A lot is
yeah.
riding on it.
The feeling I get, honestly, because the first video I did that was still archived from my channel was about BVS, the Ultimate Edition, defending it. So the reason
Okay.
why I opened my channel was BVS, by the way, Batman versus Superman.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I've had the same feeling with Superman, the same feeling I felt with when BVS was released. Do you get my point? Like, before it got released, when people were talking it's
yeah,
going to be a bad movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, like, it's going to be divisive, I think, but yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
guys, I just have a very interesting comment from Captain Sinbad once again. Because we are about to end our live broadcast, I want to give a segment to our beloved audience. Why was James Gunn allowed to fail upwards and put in charge of DC after Suicide Squad failed? So, quickly, 1 minute each to each and every panelist. Muhammad, you start. Is this
Um, I mean, I would say, yeah, Suicide Squad is one of the biggest flops of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. There was an article about it. Um, I Maybe they like him. I honestly I wouldn't know because numbers like stated that he kind of failed. But to be fair, there are many directors in cinema history that failed, and they still were giving a chance to make sequels and movies. Maybe for personal reasons, but um, I honestly wouldn't know why was he allowed unless I ask the executives or the head of DC Comics. I don't know.
Ahil,
I
quickly, one
haven't.
minute.
Okay.
No, I feel like the Suicide Squad it failed for a number of reasons, but none of them were like because the movie was trash. Because that movie is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch it again and again. But one was because they released it at streaming on the same time,
Yep.
and second, it was also during the pandemic.
But
Yep.
still,
Okay,
regardless, like there were other movies
Yep.
released the same way, and they still made money.
Now, no, I'm gonna come in with the
okay.
numbers.
Now,
I'm gonna
Raz, come on in, come on
yeah,
in.
yeah, I'm gonna come in with the numbers. All right. So look, first of all, whether a movie is good or not is a subjective thing.
Yes.
Just like you love Batman versus Superman, I walked out of it. I almost ended my marriage. So it's like just so it's subjective. All right. So that's not a metric. Okay. Now, what was happening at the time? So Suicide Squad, in terms of critical reception, yeah, somebody in the comment section might have hated it, but you have to like right now we're divided. I liked it a lot. Itsy reviews liked it a lot. So there's nothing like that. If you look at the numbers and look at the average, it had a 90% Rotten Tomatoes score for critics, but also for the audience score, it was 82%. So that means 82% of the audience liked it, right? It doesn't mean it's 82% as in a B plus movie. It just means the majority of people didn't hate it, they liked it. But there was a big disaster that happened in 2020 and 2021, and it sunk a lot of films, including Suicide Squad, which is something that was called date and day release, which Marvel did it, but the
Mm.
first people to do it was Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers decided, I think 2021, if I'm not wrong, or 2020, I don't remember the date. I forgot even the name of the CEO, but he said that he's going to release all the films that year, that slate, that entire slate was going to be date and day release in the cinema and on HBO Max because they were trying to launch HBO Max. And they got sued, by the way, because one of those films was Dune. Right, Dune,
Oh,
and that's why Dune didn't do very well in the box office, by the way. And it's Dune, okay, but that's because they did the same thing. And Lionsgate actually sued Warner Brothers, the sub-production company, the distributor. They sued them. What's her name? Famously, Marvel.
Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett
Scarlett
Johansson
Johansson
for Black
sued
Widow.
the Disney, and they settled. So there was a whole scuffle happening. So when Suicide Squad came out, first of all, critically, it was received well. In terms of number, now personally for you, if you didn't receive it well, that doesn't define what the movie is out there. There's a whole world of people watching it. So it was received well. That's number one. It didn't do well, not because it wasn't necessarily a well-received film. It didn't do well because of this issue with the streaming, and it went straight to streaming. And a lot of films that were really well at the time, including Pixar films, by the way. One of them, I forgot what it was called, the one with the black musician that was nominated for an
Soul,
Oscar.
Soul.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
Soul flopped. Soul flopped hard because it was released on
and
Disney
that was
Plus
a good
anyway.
movie.
That it was nominated for an Oscar. So that's number one. Number three, why they went, because remember, around the same time, he also put out a series on NBC Max that was very highly viewed and very popular and did very well. Which is, what's it called? The spin-off from Suicide Squad. Help me.
Spin-off
Peacemaker.
from
John Cena.
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, yeah,
Peacemaker,
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 yeah. And
Peacemaker.
again, whether you like it or not, or whether people like it or not, if we look at the actual reception, very high reception, critically and from audience scores and from reviews and from watching. So he came in and he did films that, to Warner Brothers, it looked like he's somebody who can handle big cast and can handle this sort of fantastical world that they want to build. So I don't agree
Um,
that James Gunn failed at
and
all.
yeah,
I think that's just a personal
yeah.
opinion.
And to be fair,
It's
like
not
his
fact.
movies made over 1 billion, like with Marvel. To be
Mm-hmm.
fair and
Mm-hmm.
objective,
Yeah.
commercially, all the movies that he took care of for Marvel, like they made over 1 billion. Like so the guy has commercial viability, and maybe that's what works. But the biggest test will be Superman, and we
Yeah.
shall see. Hopefully, it will do well for
I'll
the.
I'll
We
just
shall
add
see.
I'll just add one point from a comic book reader's perspective. Uh, Collecting comics since the early '80s, to this day, I don't have one single comic of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So James Gunn is the person. I don't like Muhammad. I didn't like his approach. This funny cowboy uh, type, space cowboy type of a movie that he made out of Guardians of the Galaxy. Though Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was really good, uh, but one thing I have to admit, besides the numbers, he has made Guardians of the Galaxy a list superhero team.
Yeah, they were nothing.
It actually made them like mainstream, to be honest.
Relevant. They weren't even relevant, and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
made them
yeah.
relevant. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a big the man, like, I disagree very much with the statement of he's failing upwards. I don't think so. His career, if I look at it professionally speaking, this is a trajectory. He's been, ever since he started in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, from before that Slither and stuff. If you look at his
Uh,
trajectory, all right, and you take out your own personal, because a lot of these statements are subjective and
of
personal, but
course,
look at
yeah.
it from a big picture, and this man has not. He's been doing this, so it would
I
make
think
sense for
something
yeah.
similar for Guardians of the Galaxy would be the Authority, because that's a lesser known project in DC, and he's putting spotlight onto it. So I'm really excited for that as well.
and yeah, in fact, I'll take a lead from Ahil's point that who knew Creature Commandos like
For
a
example,
year
yeah.
ago?
Right.
Okay, and who knew about the Authority? I mean, we're talking about the masses here, not the comic
Mhm.
book readers who have been following these characters like since the 80s or the 70s or the 90s and stuff. With this point, I would like to bring our live broadcast to conclusion. I am extremely grateful to each and every one of you. Mohammad Fareed from Movie Convo, Ahil Faghi from Itzy Reviews, Razan Takash from Raz Reviews. I mean, I just am at a loss for words on how to thank you guys in a way that you guys deserve the most. You guys have really, really enriched our audience who are watching live broadcasts of Superheroes of Arabia Live with your knowledge on movie making, with your knowledge on the superhero genre, and your sound ability to be able to compare that genre with others that are there in Hollywood. So I can't thank you all enough. And if there is one and closing statement that each and every one of you would like to share with our audiences, that would be amazing. I'll start with you, Raz.
Oh, didn't think I would go first. My final statement is that winning fixes everything. A good movie will fix everything. People will be like, we don't want to watch Marvel movies anymore. And then Deadpool and Wolverine comes out and it's good. And it's like, now people are walking around wearing Marvel t-shirts and, nobody's hating. So winning fixes everything. A good film is comes in and it's going to change everything. And I think we are slated for some good content next year. And I think it's going to change everything. And I think it's going to put a lot of this back on track. And I'm a little less cautiously more optimistic. Optimistic.
Okay, Ahil.
I mean, I feel like superheroes are, much. I feel like as an investment in the movie genre, I feel they're a safer bet, and they're always going to be successful as we move on, all these years. But I'm really excited to see what James Gunn and his DC universe is, cooking.
Muhammad.
Well, first of all, like, thank you so much for having me. Great meeting you guys. Well, it's a very rich and productive conversation. I loved it. And actually, the talks that we had here made me feel optimistic, cautiously optimistic, okay, about this year, especially about Superman, as well as other projects, because I do love Fantastic Four. And I'm excited for Daredevil. I did not
Yeah.
watch anything, but like season three to me is like a masterpiece. So thank you. Hopefully, we'll have a good year. Hopefully, like you guys said as well, at the end of the day, a good movie will defend itself. It doesn't need defending.
Yeah.
So let's just hope for great more content to come, and as well, where they basically, most importantly, they treat the characters and the stories right. They're not doing anything. The production companies, they're not doing projects just for the sake of releasing it. Quantity over quality, and let's hopefully relive the glories of 2019, because I still think it was a spectacular year for the superhero movies. And yeah, thank you, Mars, for having me. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, man.
We need to do this again and longer.
Inshallah.